Good morning.
Hey, Doug, 8 players missed practice yesterday. I could list them all.
It's like the season, right?
Yeah, but who's in danger of not playing?
Quite frankly, we need to get through today. They've all done well. They've all done well. A couple of them were illnesses. Jake and Alshon were both illness, not feeling well. They're good. Yeah, they're back today. They'll be out there. And the other ones, we'll get through today. We'll increase their reps, see where they're at, and make a determination. But we're hopeful.
Is Fletcher just getting rest? I know the hip.
Yeah. I mean, listen, this time of year, Fletcher's been a big impact for us, and so just resting him and making sure he's 100% for the game.
Are the illnesses related to something going around the locker room?
It's kind of been going around, I think, everywhere. The locker room, the coaching staff. I mean, it's just something that this time of year, So we get them pumped full of fluids and, whatever we can, and make sure they're ready to go.
It looks like Jordan Hicks is going to be back. He was full yesterday. What are you expecting from him, and do you need to manage him given the injury history?
Well, we're expecting him obviously to get through today. We'll make sure he's good after today, and then from a game plan standpoint, if he's dressed and 100%, then he'll play and get his complement of plays.
Is it just as simple as putting him back at the mic, or Nigel's played pretty well without Jordan now?
Yeah, I think it just this week of preparation. I think we got to find out again where he's at physically, but he is a veteran player, been a starter in our defense for a couple years, and so it wouldn't be anything just to stick him back out there. But I think you kind of want to work him into a little bit.
How about Jernigan? Is that kind of the same situation?
Yeah, Jernigan, he's been back out on the practice field. We'll increase his reps today and see where he's at. And he's another one that we'll evaluate at the end of the day.
Sometimes after a big win, the team just kind of drop emotionally. What have you seen energy-wise, emotionally, this week of practice?
Number one, first of all, the reason this week is the way it is, the way I did the walkthroughs on Wednesday, we've had 2 pretty extensive travel weekends. The Dallas game, which was an emotional, loss, overtime loss, and then, of course, the long trip to L.A. coming back. So I want to make sure that these guys are fresh as they can be this time of the year, So, and we've got some guys nicked up. So that's why I did the walkthrough on Wednesday as opposed to a full practice. And then I thought yesterday's practice was very high-spirited. Guys were really flying around. I felt like their legs were kind of coming back for this time of the year. And they've done a good job of taking care of themselves individually, collectively as a group, and that's what you want at this point.
Doug, how did you weigh sort of your decision to scale things back on field with the fact that Nick hasn't had a ton of first-team reps since, week 2?
Week 2. I kind of leaned on that experience a little bit, plus the fact that he had all the training camp with him, and so it's only been, 13 weeks or whatever. And then he had a full complement last week, going into the Rams game. So I did take that into consideration because I know what I did last year, at the end of the year. But I felt like, one, he needed the reps last week, right, going into the Rams game, where this week I think it was more about the rest of the players and getting them ready for Sunday.
Doug, you still have a move that you could possibly make with the IR?
You under the
Any
weather?
closer to that?
You under the weather? Are you under the weather?
I am. Thanks for it's going around.
Yeah, we're still evaluating that. We got a couple guys that with Mike and Mac that we're still in the process of getting them back out there, but haven't made any decisions yet on that move.
Doug, does Carson want to play through his injury?
Does he want to play through it? I would say this, and not speaking for Carson, I don't want to put words in his mouth, but I think as an athlete who has an injury this time of year, if it's not going to set them back, then yeah, I would say that everybody wants to play through injury. You see it around the league, not just with Carson or and Avonte Maddox, now Jordan Hicks. I think these guys have enough pride and want to try, but again, we got to make sure that they're 100%. That's kind of been our philosophy around here before we stick them back out there.
You guys letting him know that ultimately it's your decision.
Listen, it kind of goes back to beginning of the year. We're gonna trust the medical staff. It's one of those deals, and and you got to make sure that there won't be any setbacks if we put him back out there.
You talked about that earlier in the year when we all knew that he wanted to be back by week 1. He said he was willing to listen to the doctors, but we also know that Carson is very, very a type A personality. He's really pushing.
Right.
Is that tough to deal with? Is that
I
something
mean,
you guys have
it
to-
can be, but listen, as long as we communicate and we're upfront and honest with them and have tough conversations, which we've had, not just me and him, but I think with the doctors and the medical staff, and he understands, I think we're okay.
When you look at the Texans front seven.
Oh yeah, we play the Texans. Almost forgot.
How are they different from the Rams? I mean, both obviously get after the quarterback and stuff, but
They're very, very similar structurally. Typically, the Rams traditionally will play a 5-man D line, 5-man front. Houston will do the same. We'll do the same thing. I think the biggest, really, very similar. They have Sue and Donald, and now you got JJ and Clowney. So this is it's a tough group. I think the strength of the defense is obviously up front with those guys, but I think structurally this is a pressure team. They're gonna put pressure on your quarterback, and that's kind of what they've been doing.
they seem like a lot more effective against the run than maybe the Rams are.
They also have 2 big tackles inside that are 2-gap guys, that are anchor guys that are tough to move. And so and they got some team speed at linebacker. So and they're young there. So they've just made plays there. It's a stout group. It's a set of circumstances that our O-line and tight ends backs are have a challenge in front of them.
Doug, you haven't talked about making the offense simpler. What was happening, I guess, before that? Were you just kind of trying to build off of what you were doing last year and to make sure that your tendencies weren't showing and maybe getting a little too complicated, or how can you break that down?
Yeah, I think we self-scout every week different things, and we try to look at it from the eyes of a D coordinator or a defensive staff and say, okay, what are the glaring tendencies by formation or personnel, whatever it is. So we take a look at that, and then sometimes when, as coaches, we have a couple of days, say a Monday, Tuesday, to plan and look at a bunch of film. We can get, I don't want to say creative, but you can get a little creative with play design. A lot of moving parts with motions and shifts and lining up guys in different positions and trying to take advantage of certain things. And I think over a period of time, if you're constantly sort of changing your offense each week, or tweaking it each week, there's not a lot of consistency there, and that falls on us as coaches. And so I think what we've done, and it just kind of came to a point after the Dallas game, we said, listen, let's try to limit some of that stuff. We can still be effective with personnel and formations without a bunch of moving parts. And then go back and run our core plays. And so I think that's been a combination that's worked for us.
Josh Adams obviously has done a lot of good things this year, but he's 0 for 5 or 0 for 6 now on short yardage, 3rd and 1, 4th and 1. What do you see there? Is there something he can do different, or is he just not suited to that, or what do you see there?
Well, I don't put it all on him. I mean, obviously it starts up front, with the O-line, the tight ends. Give credit to the defense. They've gotten penetration that's shoved us back. We put a lot on our receivers too, to block either a D end or safeties, nickels, things of that nature. So, and I think as a young player, you have to just kind of understand the situation. It's a lot like a receiver who catches a pass on 3rd down at 8 yards and you need to go 2 more, and they kind of like want to spin out and know the situation. Just put your foot in the ground and go. I think there's a time and a place for that, and these are things that Josh is learning as we go. And sometimes he just has to put his foot down and just kind of cram it in there and just get the 3 feet that we need.
You talked about on Monday about how this has been tough on Carson. We've seen now in the last year the biggest victory in the history of the franchise was Nick led him to it, and then now the biggest win of the season, Nick led him to it. How do you reassure Carson about his standing here?
Well, I think number one, I can stand here and say that Carson's our quarterback. He's our quarterback of the future, and that's why we drafted him. And it's also why we have Nick here, as a backup, as a veteran player to I don't want to say bail us out, but to come in and execute, the offense. And I think we just continue to reconfirm that with Carson and let him know that, and continue to say, hey, listen, you're going to be here for a long time, have a long career, and we just got to commit to that and communicate that to him, and let that kind of sink in.
Did you check in with Frank Reich this week and talk to him about the Texans, considering he saw them 2 weeks ago?
Oh yeah. I've talked to Frank. We've reached out, talked to him, and vice versa. He's reached out to me on some opponents that we've played, and done that.
Hey, Doug, DeAndre Carter has carved out a role for himself down there. It was a great story when he made it here. What did you see from him? What caught your eye?
Yeah, I think number one, the return aspect. He's built kind of like a Sproles. He's low, he's compact, he's quick, he's twitchy. Had excellent burst. I just think I have flashes of that Tennessee game on that return that he had that got us out past the 50 to help us at least tie that game. And then as a route runner, again, you're seeing a quick twitch guy. You're seeing a guy that you can move around the formation. He's a jet sweep guy. He's a reverse guy. And he can be dangerous with the ball in his hands. And those are the things that kind of intrigued us, with him when we had him here. All right.